the president keeps referring to Venezuela and what he did there, obviously with removing Maduro and then accepting Delcy Rodriguez as vice president, as a compliant remnant of that regime. And I don't think that is at all applicable to Iran. Most analysts don't, but the president does keep referencing it. And I think the way he's viewing this is he seems to be okay with the regime staying in place. Obviously, if he's referring to him as a supreme leader, that's a clerical religious position. But he wants one that will essentially do what the United States tells him to do, kind of like Delcy Rodriguez. I don't see that happening. I think a lot of what's left of the regime is probably even less favorable to the United States, less favorable to Israel, obviously. And so it's unlikely that either he's going to be able to choose the next, next leader, spring leader, and of course that person will do anything other than be even more hostile to the United States, Israel, and what we stand for, essentially.
Right. Obviously, as of this point, many of the Iranians that we're speaking to widely support the strikes on the Islamic regime because of the abuse that they have faced at the hands of the IRGC. And so, of course, the question would be, if Trump were to support somebody who is from the Islamic regime, how would that change support on the ground? We already know that there's many Americans, according to polls, more specifically, a majority of the American public already opposes U.S. military action in Iran. How do you think that that's going to influence American strategy at this point?
Yes, and the majority oppose America's activity here, and that's kind of unusual for the start of a war. Usually it goes up substantially as the war goes on. Think of Afghanistan and Iraq. But generally speaking, when the U.S. enters a war, it's generally favorable, kind of rally around the flag kind of scenario, and that's not the case here. And of course, President Trump has supported the protesters, said, help was on the way, and now seems to be willing to support the regime that the protesters were obviously completely against, the same regime that killed over 30,000 innocent protesters and jailed many more. So it seems to be a very mixed message, but one that I think is going to not go over well inside Iran. I believe, as your previous commentators said, the Iranian people are one of the best, I think, assets, if you will, for the United States in Israel, in the sense that they also want to see this despotic regime removed. They would like to have a democratic process to elect their leaders, who I think it's safe to say would be much more amenable to joining the international community and not being a pariah in the Middle East. So I think they should be considered our ally, if you will, maybe not assets, not the right word, but ally. And everything we do to include striking these oil facilities is making that less likely to be the case.
All right. Well, there's one last question that I just want to ask you, Michael. Trump is now saying that he no longer backs the idea of arming Kurds to resist against the IRGC. Is this just rhetoric, or do you think there's a change in American strategy at this point? Why would he make these statements?
It's hard to understand. Ultimately, this was, according to media reports, a covert action campaign, which should never be talked about. And we certainly shouldn't talk about it, start it, and then end it, because what that does is put a giant target on the Iranian Kurds, who now, from the regime's perspective, are going to believe that they agreed to do this campaign on behalf of the United States to be harmed. So I'm not sure what we're going with that. I think it could be, if you just look at the effectiveness, it could be a dilemma for the regime, but I don't think it would come anywhere close to causing a change of the regime, because it's at the maximum around 4,000 fighters in this element, and they would be going up against the IRGC and the regular Iranian military, which numbers over 1 million. So it would be a dilemma, but it certainly wouldn't cause a change in the regime, I don't think, by anybody's estimation.